guys, what's going on? It's your boy Big Blue Drew 97 here to talk to you about My Hero Academia manga chapter 247. Oh wow, that was a weird way to say 47. 247, titled Status Report. And as you can see right here in the background, I was able to get something up here, My Hero related, so it's not just you looking at me. Really, you don't even have to look at me, just look at that photo. I mean, it's pretty far away, but you can obviously see Deku, you can see All Might over there a little bit, you can see, I think, Froppy. It's basically 1A, all of that photo, but that's besides the point. This chapter of My Hero was really interesting, mainly due to the fact that we basically get clear motives for Bakugo, Deku, Shoto, as well as like a little bit more of the world building of My Hero, and also, weirdly enough, a little bit more character growth from Endeavor. So we'll start off with like the first part of this chapter, which weirdly enough, the first thing we see is Shoto's mother, which is very interesting because like a large chunk of this chapter revolves around the motive of Shoto and a misconception that Endeavor has with Shoto, which I will explain later. So it's just a cool thing to bring that up because it reminds of Shoto's past. And I will tell you, there's a lot of flashback in this chapter, which means that when it gets animated, they will be flashbacking to Kingdom Come in this chapter. So look forward to that. But yeah, besides that, we're back in Endeavor's, obviously, like his office building, and he has now decided that he will take these kids under his wing, Bakugo, Shoto, and Deku, and he wants to first, like, understand, is like, before, like, he gets to the training, he wants to understand them, so he asks them to tell him about himself, because guess what, he has no idea, which makes sense, because, like, he didn't really care about teaching the youth, and, he also asks, like, what they want to accomplish, like, what challenge do they want to overcome. And in Deku's case, he basically explains that he basically wants to control his power, but because this is Deku, he does a roundabout way of saying it, which I can relate to so much, because he talks about how he wants to control his power and to maximize his performance, and then a cool thing is that Endeavor like remembers him about, oh yeah, you're the kid who used to break all his fingers, and Deku's like, oh yeah, I used to do it, but I found a new way of doing it. But he basically then starts going on like a rant of like what he really wants to accomplish, but he cannot say like that he has like, oh, it has something to do with my quirk. Yeah, I gained like another one of my quirks, and then I have like 5 more left. He can't necessarily say that, so he has to think of like a roundabout way of saying it, where it's like, oh, my quirk, it changed, or it developed a secondary effect, and like, or it manifested in a different form. And we see again his black whip, and it seems a lot longer in this scene. But he basically establishes like, oh yeah, I have a problem with it. I can't go full power with it because it will go out of hand. And I'm thinking about using it with his new like Air Force, which is his golem. But he also like establishes like, but that's gonna be hard too because I can't do that at my maximum power. And he's like, oh, by the way, I probably need to explain like Air Force is. So it's just like an extremely like long roundabout way of him explaining it. And it's so hilarious because the next page after he starts explaining it, you get like an extremely detailed analysis of like his quirk and what he actually wants to accomplish. And when I see that, I only think of one person, Togashi. Because that's basically what this is. This is a Togashi moment. Someone, like, for me, like, I haven't read the Hunter x Hunter manga yet, but I do know that Togashi has a tendency to have just big blocks of paragraphs, and this is basically what it is. It's just thought bubbles cover up like a fourth of the page. Deku covers up another part as well as Endeavor, and what's funny is that in the background you just see Bakugo mad and Shoto just having his like Shoto face like Just like, he looks annoyed, but he's not. Bakugo was definitely annoyed. And then you just get comment from like the fire chick. She was like, wow, you talk too much. I didn't understand what you said. And then both Bakugo and Shoto make a comment on that. And she's like, wow, you talk too much. I couldn't understand that. And immediately Endeavor's like, oh, okay, so you want to learn to micromanage your power output in battle. And he's like, yeah. And Deku's like, yeah. And she just goes off and it's like, oh, that's the #1 hero for you. Was unable to understand that instantly. And I'm like, okay, you're just a kiss up. But I love you because you're just incredible. And then we get another flashback of Endeavor's interaction with Bakugo, and he comes to a conclusion like, yeah, this kid's power rivals that of All Might. And then you just get a moment where he closes his eyes and he tells him that you have quite a burdensome quirk. And he's like, it seems like we're in the same boat. And Deku's like, what does he mean? And he's like, and then Endeavor goes up to Bakugo. But that's an interesting thing because Endeavor is probably referring to him and Shoto mainly, or even better, he may be referring to Shoto and Dabi, where it's like, oh yeah, we have a fire quirk, but it really messes up our body. And that's similar to your quirk. Like, you're in the same boat in which you have a quirk that if you don't control it, you will really mess up your body. So that's an interesting parallel. Either it's Endeavor talking about Shoto, or probably even better, he's talking about his other son, who maybe the fires burn him, which ties into the theory that Dabi is Endeavor's son and Shoto's brother. So but then after that, Endeavor goes to Bakugo, and he asks what Bakugo wants, and he says he wants to know what he can't do, and that's basically it. And like, the fire girl laughs at her, he's like, shut up. And it's like, by the way, what are you doing here? And she says, I'm standing by. But like, he's being serious with it. He realizes that he has the strength because of his quirk, but he also realizes that there's something that he's missing, and he wants to know what it is so that he can become stronger. And with this, we see him in his flashback, we see Bakugo and Deku when they're kids, and then we see Bakugo and Deku after that like fight where like they've come to like accept each other as rivals. And even flashback to like how he like was like wanted like to protect people from injuries while being victorious. So like, he wants to shadow the top hero so that he can find out what he's missing, which is like interesting character building upon him. And then with that, Endeavor basically like, okay guys, let's go. And Choso's like, yo, it's my turn. What about me? It's my turn. And he just looks over and he's like, oh, you want to inherit Flash Fire, don't you? And then here's probably like where the start of the character development for Shoto, as well as like Endeavor's misconception, comes in, where he's like, he basically goes up and was like, yeah, you beat the quirk into me, and I limited myself to only my right side, my eyesight. And when I look back at it, it was unavoidable. I cannot use my fire side because of all the things that you did to me. But then he talks about, but once I enter UA and they can't compete with these guys, they opened my eyes to the fact that it is my power. And he talks about, yeah, I basically you did turn me into what you wanted to be. And then we get flashbacks to Shoto when he first sees Endeavor, like after or during the sports festival, and he eventually says this, but remember this, like, the person that he strives to be isn't what he wants, but what he saw on TV. He wants to be the hero that he saw on TV and not his father. So he's basically just comes up, he's like, I'm here for my own free will, and I need to get experience because you are the #1 hero, and I need that experience so I can become the #1 hero. And he specifically states that he's using him. Like, he's like, I'm using you, so stop with the father act. And at this moment, Endeavor just comes to the conclusion, like, oh, okay. So he basically comes to the conclusion, like, you didn't come to me because you wanted to reconcile. You came here because you realized that I'm your best chance of achieving your dream. And he starts thinking about like that conversation that he had, and he misconceptions like, oh, he wants to like know me, but he's like, no, he just wants to use me. And then he just comes to this realization that like, all right, I must have understood this the whole time. So now he has to like rethink like exactly what he was doing. He's like, all right, Okay, I still have a lot of growth to do. It's probably what he's thinking. So after that, they begin to go out and patrol. And here's an interesting more tidbit that we could have implied from the series, but it's great that it's like brought up. There are three main core values for like a hero agency. It's either rescue, evacuation, or suppression, which is like the fighting. And he explains that when it comes to like hero agencies, they do one of those three. But what makes Endeavor's agency different, and probably why it's so large, is that he does all three. He helps with rescues, he helps with evacuation, and he helps with defeating the villains. So he basically, because of that, he basically tells them, like, okay, now, here's what you gotta do. You basically have to like make sure like you understand like the entire area. Like, you have to be vigilant. You have to make sure that like you are faster than the villains. You have to make sure you minimize casualties, and you have to make sure you get the people as far away as possible. And he says these are the basics of the basics. And he's like, unparalleled speed and paralleled processing. This is what will become natural to you. So basically what he's saying is that during this entire training, I'm gonna make sure that you will be the fastest, and that you're able to understand a situation so fast that it's almost instantaneous. And it's like, what you learned at UA, you learned what you can do. Now you're gonna put it in practice. That's basically the gist of it. And like after like he basically says that, he also says, and by time the winter break, and he's like, during this winter break, you're gonna show me that you can eliminate villains even faster than I am. Which shows that he took what Hawks basically said to him in that book to heart, and that he's gonna make these children even better than him, which is great character development, because it's almost the opposite of what he wanted. He wanted Ray Shoto to be better than All Might and him because of spite. Now he wants them to be better than him, not out of spite, but because he believes that like if they have to save this world, I'm gonna make sure that they're ready to do so, because that is what heroes do. So there's a paradigm shift with that, and then I find that very interesting because it builds into his character, how he is still learning from his mistakes, but what he's doing now is something that he would have never done in the past, and that's where the chapter ends. So overall, I think this is a really good chapter, mainly because it gets more development and understanding of like what these characters are looking for during this break and what they plan to get out of Endeavor. And we also get a little bit more world building about like how the agencies will work and how Endeavor's agency work, and basically like three core values of like the heroism, which is rescuing, evacuation, and suppression of the villains. So, and then we also get Endeavor's big, more character development, which, hate him or love him, you have to appreciate the character development that is going into Endeavor. Like, this is something that you would see in like a side villain, where it's like, oh, he's villain, he's doing horrible stuff, oh, but now he's learning how to change. So if anything, what I really do enjoy about My Hero is how it breaks the mold of shonen, where you normally would have like a horrible like villain turning good. Now you have a good hero turning better. So overall, I think this is a very good chapter. If I could give it a score, I'd probably give it a 4 out of 5. Because it's still like a lot of build-up chapters, it cannot reach like that pinnacle. But like for a My Hero chapter, I think it was very good. I enjoyed the interactions that the students had with each other. Bakugo, Deku, Shoto, the big three, and how they're working on the top hero, which basically solidifies like that they are going to be great heroes in the future. Now, will we be able to see that? It's still in debate. Really, we have no idea what's going to happen within the 4 months in the story. Anything could happen. Like, technically at the end of this could be the end of the series, or maybe, there could be a little bit more coming on. We just don't know. But hopefully you can follow me as well as My Hero until we get there. So hopefully you enjoyed this video, and I will catch you guys next time. Goodbye for now. Wow.